Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for staying for this very special Q&A. Please join me in welcoming the writer and director of Hold Me Tight, Mathieu Amalric, and the star of Hold Me Tight, Vicky Krieps. I'll start us off, and then we will take your questions. Please say them loudly, and I'll repeat them for the folks at the back of the room. So I'll give you all some time, because this is a very heavy film. Mathieu, you found this film as a play that had never been produced, and it is so cinematic that I struggle to imagine it on the stage. What was the play like, and how did that turn into a film in your mind?
Yes, hello everybody. I know that you would prefer just to walk in the city and try to remember what is real and what is not real, and hope that it's not real. But yes, it was a play from Claudine Galéa, who wrote this play 18 years ago. It was never performed, and a friend wanted to stage it, and he had at one moment, because of his life, to say goodbye to this project. He gave me the book, and I think I was attracted by the gesture of imagination of this woman. That's really where I could find maybe where cinema could blow all this into poetry and what we all do, in fact, at each moment of our day. There is a parallel life. Fortunately, we all have a parallel life. We have to, or we would be crazy if we would stay in reality.
And when did you think of Vicky for this film? And Vicky, what was your experience when you first discussed it with Mathieu?
Vicky, I arrived after, I don't know, maybe 1 day and a half writing. So I found the phone of her agent in Paris, and she happened to be through Paris 3 weeks later, and that's where we met.
And what did you think when you discussed the idea?
The idea?
Yeah. I think we never discussed the idea. It was more like getting on board of a ship that I didn't know where it would go to or what it was made of, and it was more an exchange of trust, like a vow of, trusting each other even though you don't know, because that you couldn't know really. There was no, like, you were lost in the movie in a way. I was too, and as he was finding the movie, almost like writing a poem, I was just following intuitively, and it was very intuitive. So there was never really discussing anything. I got this. He first gave me the theater play, and he said if I like it, then meet me again the next day in the park. And
yeah, she had read it in the night.
Yeah, I read it the same day actually, and then the next day we met in the park before COVID, and he gave me a memory stick, and that was then the screenplay. And I don't know, I just followed it intuitively immediately, because there was something about becoming crazy to not become crazy, which I think is something I often feel in life, and I always found it how to trust reality, or what we call, what we conclude on or decide, or that we all, the game we play, in life, saying that this is normal or this is real, like the way we come together here and we say, oh, okay, this is what we do. You sit, I sit here, I talk, you listen. That's what we do all day, you know. But it's just one little stage play after the next, where we just arrange ourselves. Like, this is Hyde, I'm going to be this one, and then you're going to be this one. And I always have trouble. I think since I'm a child, I always bump into this construction. And this was the first time that I read about someone who chooses consciously to leave the room, to go see next door, to survive, because the room she's in is too painful. The reality she's facing is so suffocating that she has to go and find something that's not real, but is real inside of her. And I found it so beautiful that I just followed.
The structure of the film is so fascinating, how you choose where and when to reveal details, whether they're large towards the end or earlier in the film. I think there's a moment 30 minutes in where Clarisse discusses going to look with the men to look for these bodies. Can you talk about how you put the pieces together, how you decided what would be at the beginning, what would be at the end, when you would reveal what was really going on in the film? I feel like for audience members, each person can have a different aha moment when they clue in.
Or even not have the aha moment.
Or watch the whole film and have no idea what they saw.
I heard people really, and it tells a lot about where they are in their life, in fact, saying, no. In fact, she invented that they're dead. Like that, she can really leave the house. So I said, well, that's because maybe you're thinking of leaving the house. That's really what's... but, you know, anybody can... The structure, I mean, it's Claudine who invented something. Claudine Galéa invented this very, very simple twist, reverse thing, is a woman prefers to invent that she left, and in that way, that means that they stayed. That's all. And if you put it in the order, it's very boring, in fact. It would be only the story of what we prefer not to film, the grief. Because it would start in winter with a phone call. Your husband and your children didn't come back. She goes to the mountain. After 27 minutes, we see that moment where she listens, listens, and she hears them say, well, we have to wait for the spring for the bodies to come back. And she just has to wait for the spring. And how is she going to fill that time? And of course, I had to know precisely that sort of thing, so I imagined her life. I think she went in a hospital. I think she took medication. I think she couldn't leave that house. I think that the friend at the gas stations told her one day, you know, you should just make a trip or just get out. Don't stay there. Okay. Oh, then maybe I take the car. The police brought back the car. The car that was the last trip. Maybe if I can communicate with the car. I'm going to try to do my road movie. And what about if it's like in Rain People, the Coppola film, where this woman leaves? So that's why it's almost the same aesthetic than the Coppola film. Like if Clarisse was inventing herself as a heroine, leaving for real the house. And that's where Claudine invented really something. It's more welcoming to start a film by being jealous of a woman who had the courage to leave. We can judge her, or we can be jealous of her. And then very quickly, it's maybe there's something else. But I prefer to be in the denial. And then we were attracted with the editor really to what the audience goes through forgetting, in fact, the scene of the mountain and the snow, is that you are maybe doing exactly the same path that Clarisse needs to do, and to go into denial, and to do it with a lot of humor and imagination and, yeah, a sort of pleasure and hyper-realism.
I have a question for the both of you. I'll start, Mathieu. You know, obviously you have a very illustrious career as an actor, and you've worked with some of the greatest filmmakers in all of cinema. How do you think working as an actor informs how you direct? And then for Vicky, do you feel a difference being directed by someone who is an actor and maybe understands the actor's approach a little more than a filmmaker like Paul Thomas Anderson or someone who has not acted in front of the camera?
Well, I started as a technician, in fact. My life, since I'm 17, I did all jobs in movies. And then when I was 30, Arnaud Desplechin invented me as an actor. I had never thought about that. And then I feel it's just another manual job in movie making. And there's no frontier when you're doing a setup between in front and behind the camera. But you are right, on this film, yes, I couldn't have done this film if with Vicky, with the fact that we didn't need to talk, that it's our film. We say always it's our film. If I hadn't had the experience of being filmed, having to act, that's for sure.
And what was it like for you to work with somebody who maybe understood that language differently?
It's hard to tell, because I think Mathieu is really such an artist that anyway it's different, and it's very intuitive, as I said in the beginning. So it's not so much to do with the intellect or understanding. It's more dancing with one another. But you know, for like things like the one, there are only a few scenes where I really could let the emotion come out or be, or feel it be weak. Otherwise I had to hold on to some sort of strength, I think. And that one was the one when I'm in the mountain and I find the bodies. And this scene, that's somewhere where I really realized the difference, is that Mathieu wasn't going to catch the best performance or catch the best moment, because he understood it's not what it's about. And it was the first time I could feel that a director could feel it from the inside that much, that it's so much to do with respect towards certain things. Even if it's not a real story, it is in a way. You know, maybe this might not be the exact real story, but there are stories like this, and there's a certain respect to these people and to this sort of pain that you don't want to go and show it, or, you know what I mean? Like, it's very weird to, why would I enact something like this? And he understood it so well, and so it was very, very respectful, and we only did it once, and you see the cameras far away, so it's not trying to catch the pain of her, and he understood it so well that after I did the scene, I broke down and I was crying into the ground. Actually, my face was face down in the earth, and he came to pick me up and he held me for 5 minutes, I think, in his arms, and we were both crying. And then he said, "It's over." And you know, other people would have, just for safety, you know, you do one more, or you know, we don't even film your face, it's fine, it's just your feet. But that's not the thing, you know. If you talk of rituals, if you talk of what we do when we make movies, even if you film my feet, I'm still going into it. I'm going in it, and he understood that it's about not going back in. We have what we need, and if it's not perfect, then that's okay, because we don't need perfect sometimes. If we talk of these kind of things, you don't play with it, and that's, I think, because he knows on the inside.
I'm going to ask one more question, and then I'll turn it over to you folks, so have your questions ready. You both have families and children. Is that something you can bring to a film like this, or you can't think about it at all?
The first time then in that park, the next day, Vicky said, when we film, quand on filme quelque chose, est-ce que ça arrive après dans la vie? When you film something, does it happen after in real life? And that is there all the time, of course. The children, the parents who accepted that their children are playing dead children, so the little ones, oh my God, I was scared. And they're fine.
Yeah.
Cinema
Yeah,
is a very dangerous game.
Yeah, we were very careful to not. I mean, it was never even there. And my children were definitely not part of anything of my fantasy, even close. Like if anything, I didn't have children, So not. But on set, we were more trying to. I like to say sometimes celebrate life, or almost like have a celebration about family. And I was really the only one who was destroying the game. I was the only one who was always like the heavy ghost. I was the ghost. Like in real life, in the making of the movie, I was the one who knew. And they could forget all the time. They were just having fun. So, yeah.
Okay, so if anybody wants to ask a question, just raise your hand. I see one right here at the front. Oh, and you have microphones. Beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you for such a beautiful film. I had a question about kind of the emotional versus cerebral reaction to the film. For me, a lot of my reaction, I noticed, was more cerebral, and I imagine if I watched it a second time, it would be much more emotional, because my mind would have wrapped itself around the arc and the story. And so I just wonder if you could share a little bit about the writing and the directing process and how you approach those potential trade-offs or decisions.
Yeah, that's a huge question about writing. And Claudine's Galea play, the renversement, the revelation, but she doesn't say revelation. I tried to find this word in English, renversement, the fact that it's not twists, because that's more, but it's really, you follow a woman who left her family and is imagining how they are growing without her, and she is somewhere else. And it's only the 3 last pages where you understand that it's the contrary. And the script was written like that. We shot the film in 3 periods of time because of the mountain. We needed the snow and the spring. And so we could edit between those periods, and with the editor, it's very quickly appeared that with this final twists, let's say, we were too much puppeteers, and we were observing a person and staying a bit too far from her. So I changed things in the writing, and in fact really giving back that she would be the puppeteer Clarisse, the character. It's her doing those images and that editing. She is projecting stuff. So to get close to her, and that the film, in a weird way, doesn't go through a muscle like a thriller or a secret, but could go in somewhere more like water, muddy water, or and it goes somewhere in the belly, but you don't know really why. Yeah, the Cerebral was very difficult to totally kill, of course, but that's why celebration of life, like Vicky says, was really our obsession, and hyper-realism, the fact that what Clarisse imagined with this family, or takes a graph, or takes the girl in the music school that is bigger than her real daughter, and says, well, closes her eyes and puts her in the house, and the graph takes, it works. And then what about the boy if he's bigger? And we like that she had less imagination for her little boy than for her little girl. And with the little girl, there's the music. And so there's the live music, because the two girls are pianists. So all the music was real. And that killed a bit the cerebral feeling, I hope. But it's a big, big question for the next film. I mean, it's really interesting. It's a big, big question. Where to give information, how. We tried a lot of things. And if we put it too much in order, where it would be very moving, in fact, it was boring. Because you don't want to follow a woman who's in grief all the time. It was more interesting to first maybe judge her because she left her family. That's not good, and mystery, and that's why it finishes like that. Yeah.
I'll take another question. I'm gonna go right here, third row.
Hello. All right, cool. Thank you for making this film and showing it to the audience. It was really interesting, and my mind and my heart are just like all over the place right now. I guess I have like just two really quick questions. Is for Vicky, like what was how did you prepare for this role compared to other films that you did, considering that a lot of this film is basically you're being observed? And you're just, driving the car, drinking your coffee and things like that. Did you go into those scenes with, like, okay, I'm going to do this, do that, do this? Or were you, like you said, kind of alluded to, just kind of figuring it out, discovering it then and there? I'm just wondering about that scene where where that guy was watching that pianist on the television screen, and then you take off his jacket and then you open. Was that completely spontaneous? Okay, and that just came from someplace, perhaps.
Yeah, I did. So working with Mathieu is very special because of his way of working, and it's very intuitive and like poetry, or following a crazy poet as he's doing his thing. And it's really magical. But it only works if I realize it's only possible if I let go of my need to understand what I am doing, or what my role is in it. Am I the puppeteer? Am I being observed? Am I the observer? Whenever I was trying to understand which, I knew I was losing, so I couldn't. So I stopped trying, and it was really a constant reminder of that I don't know. I won't know. But then the little things I would know, I was holding on to it, like the objects, or my job as a translator, and I had a book, and I had this, and I had that, and so it's really both. And also preparing, I remember I started to prepare, and then I was like, ooh, this is perverted, like this is strange, like, ugh, you know, because then you get like, ooh, she's probably an alcoholic, and then ooh, and it's like really that it feels not nice. Like, even if it's a character, I don't want to do that to the character as the actor who knows and who looks on it from above and like, you know, ooh, let me create this little character here, you know, I think this is a good one. Or, you know, it's so strange what we do as a job, really, I find. Sometimes it feels like calling upon spirits or whatever, but so I stopped and I didn't, and I tried to really follow him. And in the scene with the chest is a good example of how we worked together, because he had been talking to some of his crew members, and they worked together for a long time. You interrupt me if I say stupid, no. So okay. And they were talking, and they said, what about her sexuality? You know, she needs to have a sexuality.
Provoke me, you know.
Yes.
They're friends, they tell you.
They wouldn't let go, and then they had a friend who apparently she had lived a similar thing, and they said, oh, but she got very sexual after that, and blah, blah. And I didn't feel it at all. I was like, right away, I was very like, no. But then you don't want to say no immediately, and especially as an actor, you always want to do well and say yes, and of course. So I was walking around thinking there's no way I can, but how do I say it to him? And so it went up to the day, and we prepared the scene, and it was one of those scenes that came up suddenly, and we didn't have an actor. So he asked Jean-Philippe, who's the decorator, because he was good looking. And it's just that.
And he had hair like Marc,
yes.
like Arieh.
Yeah. And his movie is always like this. So in the morning he changes the script, and then suddenly he needs an actor, but we don't have an actor. So it's always like, who's it gonna fall on? Like, boom, you. And then they have to go get dressed and just become whatever. Like the man who comes at the car, and then I say, what am I, tomato or whatever. He's the gaffer, you say in English? Yeah. So it was his revenge to this guy, because he always looks so good, like Clark Gable, yeah. So they were having a laugh. Anyway, and I knew I don't want to do that. I don't know why, but I can't. And so, but everything was set up. The scene was set up, and then I came to him and I said, I think I can't. And maybe also because of the acting influence or whatever, you understood. And immediately, so there was no fighting, there was no discussion. And I said, well, can I just see what happens? And we just saw what happens. And then doing it, I understood why. And I understood that, of course, that's already so much. It's already too much. It's just putting the hand here is it's everything. So everything else would have been too much. That's the answer. But I only had the answer then. Yeah.
And it's the last shot we did. Yeah. It was the last day.
Thank you.
Let's take one more. We're getting tight on time, but so make it really great. This gentleman right here.
Yeah, that's so American. We don't have time, and you have to be great now.
Yeah, I'm Canadian, so leave that to them.
Oh, you're Canadian.
Well, hi, and thank you both for the film. And Mathieu, I have to say that for my wife and I, we love you as an actor, and so the opportunity coming down here tonight was a no-brainer. But in the film, I know I was really glad to hear what you had to say, when you came out, because it really kind of turned on its head the way I was like seeing. I would have walked out of here with a different sort of explanation for what was going on, and it's like film is very literal. You tend to like believe what you see on the screen. So I thought the kids were growing up, and I really was invested in that, and that particularly that amazing scene where the older daughter is playing the piano, and she's gotten the piano, and is that frenzied sort of thing that just builds and builds and builds. That was almost like it was overwhelming. But the thing is, now the way I'm thinking of the film is it's a ghost story in many ways, and so that's not really a question. I just wanted to say that. But thank you both very, very much.
He was great.
You know what? I'm gonna take one more.
No,
One
but
more.
it's exactly that. It's a ghost story. I was thinking about it. It's that.
Okay.
And you know, maybe 2 days later, you would. In fact, she never left. Oh shit, that didn't exist, and you would, you know. It's nice later on, to.
Okay, last question right over here at the end of the row.
Hi. I was absolutely struck by the scene in which the daughter looks at the painting of the family on the wall and runs her hand down your arm and eventually pulls the glasses off the table and onto her, and that cuts into the next scene. And I was just thinking throughout this Q&A about in which the way you went about performing and directing this, and then are now taking this to the public, and I assume have been taking this to the public for a while, of what emotion is coming out from this film into that, you know, that you're taking, walking into this room, seeing 200 people, you know, yeah, basically that's yeah. How was this experience?
Oh well, no, you know, I mean, it is an honor that Richard Lorber, and when he just wanted to show the film in the United States, I mean, I can't all the time. We can't believe the chance we have. Yeah. It's extraordinary, and really, thank you. This is very, very deep. It's incredible. Yes. And this poster scene you're talking about is the painting. It's a painting from Robert Bestley, who died 1.5 years ago. He didn't see the film. And that's why I was talking about hyper-realism. I was really inspired by why this man, who all his life took photos of his wife and his kids, and a lot of cars also, and in his basement would reproduce so precisely his wife and his children, who were up there, you know. But no, he and this ritual really helped me to write and to feel exactly maybe what she is doing in reproducing exactly how the kitchen would have been if the children had grown up, with the cornflakes, with everything. Everything is, and with the DOP and the sound engineer, thanks to that painting, in fact, we had the intuition that reality and projection had to have exactly the same aesthetic, that there wouldn't be a blue filter to explain that this is imagination and this is, and it made me remember moments of great pain that we can all go through, especially love separations. That is very close to death. In fact, it's exactly the same feeling. There's no filter that explains what is real and what is not real. You continue to be, she loves me, or he loves me, and you just continue. And you read the past differently, you change everything. So everything has the same matière, the same tissue, the same, and that comes from the painting. And even if, it doesn't matter if you didn't see that it was a painting, that's not the problem. But Juliette, when she plays that's what she was playing. Like, and again, this is a scene invented by Clarisse. all this music never existed. The piece of Ligeti that you were talking about, that is only made with the note A. It's only A's everywhere. The little girl never played that. Never. In reality, she stopped at La Lettre à Élise. Never went further.
Okay, well, can we do one more round of applause for Vicky Krieps and Mathieu Amalric? Thank you all so much for coming and supporting this film. My name is Matt Hoffman. Have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.